Welcome, travelers, to Adventures in Security. In this video, we explore active and passive scanning, why and how they are used for offense and defense, and how we defend against them. You can download the link for the video script below. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're breaking down two foundational ideas in cybersecurity: active scanning and passive scanning. Scanning is the process of gathering information about systems. What hosts exist, what ports are open, what services are running, and how a network behaves. The big difference is interaction. Active scanning sends traffic to a target, while passive scanning learns by observing existing traffic or public data. Both are used by defenders for inventory detection and risk reduction, and both are used by threat actors for reconnaissance. We'll also connect these ideas to TTPs, tactics, techniques, and procedures, and mention common tools you'll hear about in the real world. Quick reminder: scanning should only be done with authorization and within scope. Think of scanning like learning about a building. Active scanning is walking up to doors and trying handles, direct interaction that may leave traces. Passive scanning is watching from across the street. Quiet, but you may miss details. In security terms, active scanning sends packets, pings, port probes, banner grabs. Passive scanning might involve watching network flows, DNS logs, or collecting information from public sources. Both aim to answer: what's out there? What is it? How exposed is it? The trade-off is visibility versus stealth. Active scanning tends to be faster and more precise, but noisier. Passive scanning is quieter and safer operationally, but can be incomplete and takes longer to build confidence. Defenders typically use both to get the best of both worlds. Active scanning means generating traffic to a target to learn something concrete. You might start with host discovery, checking which IPs respond. Then you move to port scanning to see what's listening, followed by service detection to identify protocols like HTTP, SSH, or SMB. Often, scanners attempt banner or version identification because software versions help estimate risk. Finally, vulnerability scanning checks for known weaknesses. In defensive programs, authenticated scanning is usually the gold standard. Log in, check patch levels, and reduce false positives. Threat actors also use active scanning, often at scale, to find low-hanging fruit, then narrow in on exploitable services. Key takeaway: active scanning provides strong direct evidence, but it produces signals defenders can log and detect. Let's connect active scanning to real-world TTPs. In many frameworks, you'll see active scanning used during reconnaissance, starting broad, then focusing on what responds. After initial reachability checks, attackers and defenders perform network service discovery to identify what's running and where. Tool-wise, you'll commonly hear Nmap for detailed mapping, and high-speed scanners like Mascan or Zmap for large ranges. For vulnerability management, enterprise tools like Nessus, OpenVAS/Greenbone, Qualys, or Nexpose are used to test for known issues. For web applications, tools like Burp Suite or OWASP Zap help analyze requests and responses, while Nikto and word list-based tools like FFUF or GoBuster focus on common web exposures. Remember, tools are neutral. Authorization determines legality and ethics. Passive scanning gathers information without sending probes to the target. Inside an organization, that often means monitoring traffic via a sensor, span port, or network tap, then extracting patterns from protocols and metadata. You can learn a lot from DNS queries, DHCP leases, and authentication logs. What devices exist, when they appear, and what they try to reach. Passive methods also include outside-in observation of public signals, like exposed DNS records or certificates, without directly touching internal hosts. For defenders, passive scanning helps build asset inventory and detect anomalies with minimal operational risk. For attackers, passive recon can reduce the chance of being noticed early but it often requires good positioning, either access to internal traffic or reliance on public datasets. Passive scanning lines up with reconnaissance techniques like gathering victim network information and searching open websites or technical databases, basically learning from what's already published or observable. That includes public search engines for exposed services, certificate transparency lookups, and DNS records. Common OSINT tools here include Shodan and Census, plus certificate resources like crt.sh and registration data like Whois. For DNS-focused recon, defenders and attackers use tools such as DIG, DNS Recon, Amass, or Subfinder to understand domains and subdomains. Now, if an attacker has internal access, passive scanning can become network sniffing, capturing traffic with TCP dump or Wireshark, or analyzing it at scale with Zeek or Suricata. The key idea: passive scanning reduces probing, but depends on visibility and data sources. Active scanning is popular because it's efficient. You can sweep a subnet and quickly learn exactly which ports and services respond. That makes it excellent for baseline inventory, compliance checks, and verification. For example, proving an exposed service is actually closed, but active scanning has downsides. It's often noisy, meaning it generates patterns, like many connection attempts across ports, that stand out in logs. It can also stress sensitive devices, legacy systems, or poorly configured services. So responsible scanning needs careful scheduling and throttling. Another issue is accuracy. Firewalls, IPS, and rate limits can hide or distort results, so you may get false negatives. Bottom line, active scanning is powerful and precise, but it must be controlled and monitored, like any other security operation. Passive scanning shines when you want visibility, without risking disruption. Because you're observing normal activity, you capture how systems truly behave, which helps with baselining and spotting unusual patterns like beaconing or policy violations. It's also useful for catching unmanaged devices, because the first time they talk, you can see them. But passive methods can be incomplete. If a device is powered on but not communicating, you might miss it. Passive scanning also depends on sensor placement, logging quality, and retention. If you don't collect DNS logs, you can't analyze DNS. If your sensor misses east-west traffic, you lose visibility. Finally, passive indicators can be ambiguous. You infer what a system is rather than proving it. So passive scanning is safer and stealthier, but slower and sometimes uncertain. Defenders use active scanning as a disciplined, repeatable process. First, it supports attack surface mapping, knowing what exists and what is exposed. Second, it validates security posture. Are critical services patched? Are insecure protocols disabled? Are misconfigurations present? Whenever possible, authenticated scanning improves accuracy and reduces guesswork. Third, active scans help with change detection. If a new port opens unexpectedly, that's a strong signal to investigate. The professional part is governance. Define scope, get approvals, schedule scans to avoid peak hours, and tune rates to prevent outages. Also, treat scan results like sensitive data, because they are essentially a map of your weaknesses. In short, active scanning is a routine health check, but it must be carefully managed to avoid becoming the cause of an incident. Passive scanning is often your always-on visibility layer. By collecting DHCP leases, you learn which devices join the network. With DNS logs, you see what domains hosts request, useful for identifying suspicious patterns. With flow data, you observe who talks to whom, how often, and on what ports. This supports detection use cases like a new device appearing on a sensitive VLAN or periodic outbound beacons that hint at command and control. Passive monitoring also helps validate whether segmentation works in practice. If systems that should never communicate are exchanging traffic, your controls may be misconfigured. Finally, passive data enriches your SIEM, so alerts have context, device identity, normal behavior, and historical connections. It's less about one big scan and more about building an evolving picture over time. To defend against hostile active scanning, start with reducing what's exposed. Every unnecessary internet-facing service increases risk. Use firewalls and security groups to enforce least exposure. Ideally, allow listing and placing admin services behind VPN or zero-trust access. Next, focus on detection. Active scans create recognizable patterns like many connection attempts across ports or many hosts in a short time. That's where IDS/IPS WAF logs and threshold-based alerts help. You can also raise attacker cost with rate limiting or tar pits and detect early recon using honeypots. Finally, have a response playbook. Confirm whether activity is benign, like your own scanner. Then block or throttle the source and investigate whether the scan progressed into exploitation attempts. Scanning is often the first visible step before real intrusion. Passive recon is harder because it may not hit you directly. Defenses start with reducing information leakage. Encrypt traffic with TLS and avoid exposing software versions, verbose error pages, or revealing headers. Next, manage your public footprint. Tighten DNS records, cloud storage permissions, and internet-facing configurations. Monitoring certificate transparency and external exposure can help you spot unexpected public signals. If the attacker is doing passive scanning internally, the defense shifts to architecture, strong segmentation, network access control, and protections that limit or detect sniffing opportunities. Also, assume logs are valuable, protect them, and monitor for unusual access. The big takeaway is balance. Use active scanning for precise validation and passive monitoring for continuous awareness. Together, they give you coverage, accuracy, and faster detection. That's it for this video. If you learned anything, please remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And until next time, be careful what you click.